This is the High School Football America podcast for August the 23rd, 2019. I'm Jeff Fisher. Welcome to the 2019 high school football season. It starts tonight. It is Friday Night Football. Heading to my old stomping grounds, Southern California, Mission Viejo. Boy, spent a lot of good football games there. We're going to talk with head coach Chad Johnson, entering his second season with the Diablos. He was the man, along with Jason Negro, who built St. John Bosco into that power, and he's done a great job with some quarterbacks through the years. And Chad's on the line to talk about the Mission Viejo Diablos, number 71 in the preseason High School Football America 100, number 87 last year in the final one, only 2 losses on the field against an extremely tough schedule in one of the toughest areas in the nation. Welcome to the show, Coach.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's dive into things. I know you've got your first trip is to Hawaii, so let's kind of talk about camp a little bit and some of the boxes you're looking to check off. I know you got some returners there that look good on defense, lost some skill on the offensive side, but give us the snapshot right now.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. Our defensive line, I think, can be one of the best defensive lines in California. We got 3 guys already with, really good offers. Lance Kennelly heading that D-line. He's a national recruit. He's got, offers at Vanderbilt and Utah and, all over the Pac-12. Some SEC offers. He's a stud. Northwestern, a Big Ten offer. He's an absolute stud. And then on the opposite side, at the end is Logan Schwenke. Logan Schwenke has offers to all of the Mountain West schools and also as well as the Armed Forces. I think Army's probably the lead right now for him. And then you have inside, you have Keontae Avasa, who's been offered by a bunch of Pac-12 schools. He's a Mormon kid, so I can kind of see him ending up at Utah or BYU or something like that. And then you have a kid who is young, who started as a sophomore last year, Micah Carrion, who I think could end up being better than all of them. He's a stud. Micah's actually going to play offense for us as well. He's going to also play left tackle for us. So he's a stud 2-way player. And then our backers are super solid too. And David Meyer and Easton Mascarenas. We're really excited about our front and our front 7. But you're right, secondary wise, we did lose, 3 out of 4. And 2 of those guys are at Pac-12 schools, and we got to replace JoJo and we got to replace, Akili, and that's tough. Even Devin was a stud too. So that's definitely where we're young at. I think we have 2 really good safeties that stepped up. They're going to be seniors, and John and James McDonald, John Burns and James McDonald. I think they've done a great job. We have 1 returning corner. There was a sophomore last year in Ryder Fitch. Their corner spot's a open competition. That's a battle. And I will tell you this though, Jeff, in our Saturday, July 13th battle of South County passing tournament, we were going up against, top competition, and I was really pleased with the way our secondary played. So, hopefully our defensive line gets the passer. Those guys don't probably have to cover very long, which I think really helps a young secondary when they're only covering for 2.5, 3 seconds and not covering for because you have no pass rush, so you're covering forever. I think that's really going to help those guys.
Talking with Chad Johnson at Mission Viejo, Coach, entering your second year. As I said at the top, you and Jason Negro working hand in hand there at Bosco. Now you go into your second year. The HC role is much different from what you were used to in many, many ways. Have you given yourself your breakdown, where you were good last year and where you want to improve this year? Did you give yourself a grade and a report card on that?
Yeah, I think the first thing that takes a hit when you move from offensive coordinator to head coach is the offense. And I felt like last year with all the other things I was doing as a head coach, you just don't quite have it really wasn't the time. It was just more of like the energy to be creative and every single week, spend time and really try to come up with, just be more creative and stuff like that. That's kind of what I'm looking at this year, is trying to be more creative offensively. Last year I was pretty talented offensively with those guys going both ways, with Akili, JoJo, and Devin. And then I had my quarterback, Joey Yellen, who actually had played for me at Bosco as a freshman and sophomore before he transferred to Mission. So he was really comfortable with the offense and all of that. And I felt like, we were good offensively, but I felt like we could have been more creative. We were I don't know. I just felt like it could be more creative. I think that's kind of the biggest hit that I took as a head coach. I'm trying to get back to that and be more creative offensively. I have a quarterback this year that can run, in Peter Costelli. He's a kid that runs a 10.8 100 as a sophomore in track.
Wow.
So we can be more creative offensively with his athleticism. We're younger because I did lose my 3 top receivers last year, and so we need to be more creative to move the football. I think the one area that I felt like last year's offense was lacking too was the ability to run the football. We just weren't good at our run blocking schemes weren't great. We weren't real physical last year. So that was kind of the biggest thing that I took on as myself. Like, we need to get, a better weight program going this year. And it kind of just takes a while. That was the one thing that was kind of a shock to me when I got to Michigan, was how poor the weight program had been, how weak the whole team, how weak the overall team strength was. So we addressed that, and it kind of takes a while. So, strength, you can't, unless you cheat it, it just takes a while. You can't go from benching 200 to 300 overnight. So, it just takes a while. So, I'll tell you what, I was really excited that my linemen, D-line and O-line this year in our own passing tournament, and now you're talking Bosco was there with their linemen, Mater Dei was there with their linemen, Orange Lutheran was there with their linemen. All of these teams brought their linemen, and our linemen finished first in the lineman comp, winning the power clean event, coming third in the bench, actually beat Bosco for the championship in the tug award. So I was really excited about the strength that my linemen showed, and I think we'll make a vast improvement in the run game as a result of it.
Yeah, I liked seeing what you did there with the linemen. It made me feel good about our preseason #1 bullseye we put on you there. Coach Chad Johnson on the line, Mission Viejo. You mentioned Costelli. I want to make sure I got that time right, because he's listed as 6'3", 220. What did he run?
Yeah, he ran a 10.8. What's funny is he's never run track before. So Peter was a kid that was coming to St. John Bosco youth camps. Well, he comes to Bosco, and then I ended up leaving, and he was kind of like, okay, great. The guy he came to come to Bosco for just left, and then he's behind DJ, so he ends up transferring to Santa Margarita. Loved Fisher, and unfortunately, they parted ways there with him, and so they ended up calling me up, said, Coach, can we come back with you? I said, absolutely, I'd love you to come over to Mission. So, they came over to Mission, and now he's here. And so he asked me, he goes, Coach, can I go out for track? I'm like, Peter, absolutely, you're fast. Go ahead. So he goes out there in track. He doesn't have track shoes because he's got big feet. I mean, he's got size like 15 shoes. And he goes out there, and they try to go down to Dick's Sporting Goods to buy a pair of track shoes for him for his first meet, and they don't have them. They got a special order as track shoes. So he gets out there in literally just basketball shorts, not like a track suit, basketball shorts and tennis shoes. Like just, your run-of-the-mill tennis shoes. And in his first track meet, he runs an 11.2.
Wow.
He runs an 11.2. And then of course, all the track coaches are like, holy cow, can we please get some track shoes? Wear the track suit. So he goes over a few meets and ends up running a 10.8. 10.8, and then at that time the season was kind of over, and because he ended up joining the track season, late. He wasn't a track guy in January, if you will. So, but I mean, that was his sophomore year of track. So you're talking a kid who's probably going to run next year. He's probably going to be more serious about it now that he knows he's really good, and he'll train for it from January on. You're talking about a kid who's probably going to run 10.5, 10.6 next year as a junior. And then as a senior, he's probably going to have a chance to win the state championship at a 10.3.
That's amazing. A little RPO added in there. You get a little bit more creative. Talking with Chad Johnson, head coach at Mission Viejo. And because, you kind of became known as the quarterback whisperer there at Bosco, starting with Josh Rosen and all that. So when you get a young kid like this, obviously some skills, what are some of the things that you start talking to a young man about when it comes to being a quarterback for a guy that knows how to produce some quarterbacks that can go to the next level?
The number one thing you want to do with a young quarterback is to make sure his fundamentals on throwing the football are sound. That's the first thing, because it's just like anything else. If you don't have the fundamentals of the right swing in baseball, you could spend 1 million hours of doing it, and your swing's going to have flaws. Same with pitching, same with throwing a football. I mean, there's shooting a basketball. You sit there and go, and you can spend $1 million, but if you shoot the thing wrong, the thing spinning sideways out of your hands, it's not going to go in very much. So, that's the number one thing is you want to develop, really, really solid and good fundamentals. Every quarterback's different. Every quarterback throws the ball a little bit different. But having said that, there's 4 or 5 things, you need to do fundamentally correct to be accurate and throw the football, well. And that's the first thing we start with, and make sure our fundamentals are sound from the ground up, starting with your feet, moving to your hips and how you rotate, and then obviously the ball position before you throw, some angles you want to hit through your throw, trying to stay as compact as possible, and obviously your finish. And so, that's the first thing you do. The second thing I think you got to do is you got to develop them mentally. And when I say mentally, I'm not teaching them so much offense. I teach them defense. I spend a lot of my time on the board teaching them coverage, teaching them defense. What are they trying to do? What's an outside backer reading in this coverage? When he's pattern reading, and I say, hey, he's reading 2 to 1, what does that mean? How if number 2 goes in, what's his job as an outside backer in this coverage? And then I think, obviously the coverages in high school football are nowhere near as complex as they are at college and then obviously in the NFL. But in high school football, to start these kids off, you can really teach them the fundamentals of defensive coverages so that they can identify movement keys. They can, eliminate wrong answers before the snap of the ball, and really try to focus on maybe on 1 or 2 movement keys and 1 or 2 or 3 receivers that are involved in a pattern. So, I think that's probably the thing that we do the best job of is making sure our quarterbacks are super fundamental, have a solid motion that's compact, and they can replicate it over and over with accuracy. And then teach them, the mental game from a defensive perspective, especially. And then we get to the point where we're like, hey, listen, here's the coverage. What route concepts give this coverage problems? And then that's what I want our quarterbacks to, okay, coach, it's cover 4. All right, well, middle field flood is a problem. We'll take number 2 and run at the safety and run a dig. He'll jump it. We go post over the top. Like just, coverages that route concepts that hurt coverages. So they get into a game, now they see a coverage, like, okay, I know exactly what hurts this. And if it's not called, I can check into it. And that's why I think, we'll probably do our best job, with the mental game. And Peter's right there. I mean, he's a super smart kid. In fact, their day, I told him when I got home, I was late, about 10 o'clock. I got home and I was watching film, and I literally just his mannerisms, the way he moved, the throws he was making. I told him, I go, dude, I thought I was watching Josh Rosen. Wow. He's pretty impressive. I'm really excited about him.
That's a good guy to compare him to. Chad Johnson on the line, preseason number 1, the Diablos from Mission Viejo in Southern California. We mentioned that you lost a lot of skill. Who are some of the kids that are going to be competing to take the place of some pretty good players?
Yeah, we're very fortunate that we did get some kids that transferred in. One of them is Chase Neenat from Santa Margarita. Really good outside receiver. Obviously, I think he came with Peter, right? So he's a really good outside receiver. He'll be one of our main targets. We have a really good slot receiver who's also a track speedster named Maven Anderson. He's got offers to Oregon, Minnesota, a bunch of schools. Those 2 are probably be our go-to guys. We have a really solid H-back who's, he's not going to go any big-time college because of his height. I think if he was 6'4", he would be one of a big-time recruit. I don't know national, but a big-time recruit. He's probably, 6 feet tall at best, and he's about 215 pounds. But he's a super athletic, solid H-back. We move him all over the place. And then on the other side, outside receiver, we have a couple of young guys that are battling. That have some serious speed. I did some really good things at our passing tournament, and I'm excited about them. I think they can definitely blow the top off and get behind defenses. So I'm actually pleasantly surprised about our receivers. And the nice thing too, Jeff, is that they're only going one way. And so last year, Tilly, JoJo, and Devin, 3 of my top 3 receivers had also turn around and play safety and corner. So we were great in the first half. But in the second half it was like, oh gosh, hold on. And it was tough, right? Because the second half, if you're up, you're trying to run the football to win the game, and we weren't good at it. So we had to keep on throwing. Well, all those guys are tired and they're gassed, so they can't run routes hard. It was tough.
Yeah.
Where these guys this year are going one way, in practice every single day, we're able to go a lot more best on best because we have only really Micah Carrion going one way. Where last year, everyone went both ways. So it was like, okay, whoever had our starters in the best on best, it was just a landslide victory for that side of the ball. So this year it's a lot more best on best, a lot more competition. I believe iron sharpens iron. So I think we'll be kind of surprising the teams. They're going to be better than people think we are.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest changes, and I'm an old guy, as 58 years old, is, it used to be a badge of honor to have those great athletes going two ways. That's not the case in high school football in 2019. Chad Johnson on the line. Last thing we didn't touch, and, one of the things that kind of, when I moved to California, and I spent 6 years in Southern California, was, I knew you guys had the athletes. It was the physicality that just amazed me. Physicality and speed. So what's right. the guys up front that make it all tick and make sure everybody's able to move the football?
Yeah, I have 4 guys on the offensive line that played a considerable amount last year back. Starting with our center, all-league center, Tony Villarreal, who is probably going to end up at an Ivy League school. Super academic kid, probably Cornell is, I think, where he's leaning to right now. Super academic kid, also a long snapper. And he's our captain of the offensive line, going through every single call, the quarterback, if you will, of the offensive line. Then we have a really physical set of guards in Alan Flores, who's a master's level wrestler, which is a heavyweight wrestler in masters last year, which is the step below the state before in California. Mm-hmm. It's above state. So he was made CIF, qualified for masters out of CIF, the championship, and then he lost there to go to state. So he's kind of like one of those, really tough wrestler kids. JT Hand, who I think will be eventually a Pac-12 guy. He's got to hit one, a little bit more of a growth spurt. That's all the colleges say. I think he'll probably end up at Arizona. And then Tommy Marabella at right tackle has got offers from Idaho and Idaho State, and kind of that area. And then left tackle is going to probably be Micah Carrion, who is the defensive lineman who I told you I'm really high on. So those guys are very physical, experienced, returning, big, strong guys, and I think that's why I think our run game is going to be so much more improved. It's because they are big, they are strong, they are physical guys. Where last year I felt we were pretty good in pass pro, and things like that, but we just weren't. When we had to put our hand in the dirt and run power inside zone, I just felt like we couldn't get the push we were looking for. So I'm really excited about those guys in the run game, and we got to develop our pass game better. That's something that I will tell you that so far, our defensive line has won a lot of those pet team pass battles, if you will, and blocking Lance and Keanu and Schwenke, and we Carrion's on that side of the ball, so we have our second tackle in. It's been difficult because those guys are just so talented on the defense side of the ball, which is good though, because I told those guys, hey, listen, you're going to go into a football game and you're probably never going to block somebody as good as Lance the whole year. The game's going to be easy. And I told her all the line, if we can block these guys, there's not going to be a defensive line out there. I'm talking Bosco included, that's going to be better than our 4 guys. So
that's saying something there, no doubt about it. Chad Johnson, going to wrap up here with a couple of questions. Let's go to your schedule. Before I left last year, I remember you were scratching your head. It's not easy to be at a good program and try to put together a schedule. You knew that at Bosco, but it looks like you've got a good one. Last year, you beat 2 Trinity League foes. You beat Santa Margarita and Orange Lutheran. This year, you got Santa Margarita back there. I know you start in Hawaii. You've got a very good La Habra team. St. Mary's from Stockton, Upland. Tell me a little bit about the schedule. That's even before you get into the South Coast League.
Yeah, the biggest thing is we definitely want to stay prominent. Our goal is to develop our program, to try to catch Bosco and Mater Dei. Right now, Bosco, Mater Dei, and then you have Servite and J. Sarah nipping at their heels, I think, are just the cream of the crop. I think, last year, and you saw it in the scores. The 2 public schools that are the best around are us and Centennial, and Mater Dei piked both of us, by running clocks, both games. And we've got to try to close that gap. And then, and then Bosco beat Mater Dei in league handily, and then Mater Dei barely beat Bosco in the final. So those 2 teams in California and probably the Western United States are heads and tails above everyone else. I mean, Mater Dei piped Bishop Gorman. So it's one of those things where those two teams are just heads and tails above everybody out here, probably west of the Mississippi, I'm guessing. And they're just really, really good. And it's my job I was at Bosco, so I know how good they are. I know, that's how good of a job Jason does and Terry Bullock getting those kids in and how good of a job they do. So I just need to, do everything that I can to try to catch them. And that's our goal is to try to be that team that's going to catch them. And I've got some stiff competition, and Jay Sarah's trying to catch him. Servite's trying to catch him. Troy Thomas is back at Servite. He's a really good coach. Matt Logan, I'm sure, did not appreciate that score and then semifinal against Mater Dei. So he's gearing up. And so it's like, and at some point in time, there's a lot of kids out here, but at some point in time, there's just so much talent. You know what I mean? So, it's tough. We're an uphill battle, and we're gonna keep on grinding and trying. One of the things that was hurting Mission Viejo when I got there is they had lost their feeder program. A program called Mission Viejo Cowboys had been there for over 30 years. I grew up in the area, and I remember the Mission Viejo Cowboys. They were a prominent youth program, and they closed their doors 2 years before I got there. There's no more Mission Viejo Cowboys. No more Mission Viejo Cowboys playing at the junior high. No more Mission Viejo Cowboys playing at Mission Viejo. So we had to fix that, and we fixed that, by bringing back the Cowboys, which we rebranded it, called it something different, but we rebranded it and brought back our youth program. So we're excited about that. But it's tough, man. I mean, those guys do a really good job, and it's not like they're bad coaches where you can try to, out-coach them. They're really good coaches too, and they know what they're doing, and they run a great program, great strength program. They do a great job. It's not easy. It's not easy to catch, Nick Saban and Kirby Smart. That's tough.
Well, and you never shied away from. I mean, you know what it takes. You knew what it takes to build Bosco and all that. But and I love Bob Johnson, your predecessor there. But Bob always, he hated the public-private thing. You're basically saying, no. We're, even as a public, we want to be them, right? I mean, you don't shy away from that fact, right?
No, absolutely not. And that was why we scheduled 2 training teams off the bat, and then we ended up beating Villa Park, who beat Servite the game after us. We played Villa Park week 3, and then they played Servite week 4. We beat Villa Park by 14, and then Villa Park beat Servite by 14. So we felt like, if we were in the training league right last year, we felt like we would be in a third-place battle with Jay Sarah. If Jay Sarah and us played, it would be a great game. I don't know who would win, but obviously Bosco and Mater Dei are 1 and 2, and so I felt like, we are a training league team. We are right there. We can compete. We just got to try to elevate our game, and that's why I wanted to come out and play an aggressive schedule. I'm not going to go out there and pad my schedule with, 4 or 5 cupcakes. I want to play the best of the best. We still have Santa Margarita. Orange Lutheran did not want to re-up with us, so we got St. Mary's, who is a very, very good team from Stockton, California. We played them when I was at Bosco, and then Upland is as star loaded as anyone with Justin Flo and all of those guys. La Habra, as you mentioned, might be the sneaky best team on our schedule with all the guys that they have back, with Clark Phillips, his brother, the tight end, the other receiver they have. I mean, they're also Zanelli's back at quarterback. They're loaded. And then, Villa Park, they have Zion Alfonso and a couple other really good players. That should be a good game. They're very, very physical up front. They do a great job of developing linemen and then playing off it with a really powerful run game and kind of old school, like his dad, Antich, St. Paul run game, physical, power, ISO, all that stuff. So, we have our work cut out for us. Definitely Hawaii. I will tell you, planning for Hawaii is definitely a time-consuming endeavor. But it's fun. It's worth it. Our kids are excited about it. I remember this because we traveled a lot at Bosco, as you know, excuse me. And what I always saw at Bosco is especially when you traveled like game 1, like your first game was a travel game, it really galvanized your team. The kids really came together. Because we always listen at Bosco, we always spent like a week, or we would fly on a Tuesday and play on Friday. We used to fly on Thursday and play on Friday. So we wanted some time where we spent time at the hotel, and our kids had downtime where they could, come together and bond. And we did some bonding team activities together to kind of encourage it. And I always felt coming out of those games like, gosh, this really kind of sits on for the season. These kids are really tight. They're close close knit now, and I'm looking forward to that part of my game in Hawaii, watching my team come together and then coming home from Hawaii ready to finish out the rest of the tough preseason instead of reading the rest of them. It's kind of like a tight, one group, one heartbeat, if you will, a team moving through the season.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And like you said, you come back from Hawaii and you go right into Santa Margarita. Chad Johnson online. One last question for you, and this kind of sums it up from what we were talking about earlier about you wanting to compete, wanting to be the best against the best. Your good friend Jason Negro, who again you guys built Bosco there. He didn't dodge the question, which was CIF Southern Section has changed things up with an open division, how they're going to do that, and then Division 1 and 2. I mean, there's no doubt about it. You guys compete at the highest level, always year in and year out, one of the best in the country. Jason said he had to watch what he said, but he said at the end of the day he wasn't real happy with the new format there. I know you've got an opinion or two. What's your opinion on the change in the playoff system?
Well, I'm kind of on the other side of the coin with that, and he has his reasons, and Jason's a really smart guy, so his reasons are probably well rooted. But my thing was I don't know if you remember, Jeff. I coached basketball at Bosco as well, and we were for Derek Taylor, and we were really good. And won a state title, won a CF title when I was there. And the reason I bring that up is because in California, they started this whole open thing with basketball first.
Right.
And at the end of the season in basketball, regardless of how many kids you had at your school, how many, what league you were from, it didn't matter. They took the top 16 teams at the end of the year and they put them in the open division. And I agreed with it because before what they would do is they would take a snapshot of how you did the last couple of years, the last 2 years, last 4 years. And I'm like, well, that's silly because if you have, Carson Palmer at your school, which was at Santa Margarita, and then he was really good, and then he graduates and another Carson Palmer has not walked through the door, you're not going to be as good.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, well, let's take Santa Margarita, who had Carson Palmer, and now he's graduated, and there's no quarterback to replace him. It's just an average, good little quarterback. Let's throw him in Division 1 because Carson Palmer did well. That doesn't make any sense to me. It's like that. So it should be that year. So if you do have a DJ, Uyunglele, and he's a senior, right? So you have DJ. Okay, well, this year, Bosco should be in the open. If DJ graduates, this is hypothetical. I know Boston's going to be great next year. They're all
right.
Good. But let's say DJ graduated and they didn't have a good quarterback back next year and they weren't as good. Well, then why would you throw them in the open against other DJs? You know what I mean? Like, to me, it's kind of a good thing to wait till the end of the season and then take the top 8 teams and put them in the open. Here is where I thought it was really good what basketball did, and I think maybe this is what he's talking about. This is what football is missing in basketball, because it happened to us. We were one of the bottom 5 teams that made the open division in basketball one year. We had to go play Sierra Canyon game 1, and it was like, oh, that's going to be fun. So we finished second league the modern day, and we go play Sierra Canyon game 1, and we get blown out. In basketball, when you lose your first round game in the open, you get to go back into your division and finish out the playoffs. Does that make sense? Yeah. So like you would be like, okay, let's say Mission Viejo is one of the last 8 teams in, okay, and you got to play Modern Day of Bosco right off the bat game 1. Well, that's tough because you could be in the division down and win the CF championship.
Right. So
you go play Bosco Modern Day. Let's say you don't win, and now your season's over. And you're thinking to yourself, gosh, if I would have just lost that last game, that close game against Tesoro, I could be in Division 2. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it.
If I played my seniors too long on senior night, I could be in Division 2 and winning a CF championship and possibly a state title. Instead, I got to go, into the open division and get my butt kicked by somebody, and then now the season's over. So I think the thing that they're missing, and what I'd like to see, is have them have an open division and then have a Division 1. Okay, Division 1 would be the next echelon of teams. Anyone that lost the first round game of the open would jump back into the playoffs like basketball and play the winners of the next division down, the first week winners. Does that make sense?
It does. It's interesting.
I think that's what they should take the basketball model and put that to football. Like, hey, listen, you know what? If you are Boston Modern Day, you're probably going to be playing each other, if not, you're going to make the semis for sure every single year, and you're probably going to play each other in the finals. That's the way things are going. Okay, so it's Bosco Mater Dei, year in year. Okay, fine. But the next team, Jay Sarah or Bishop Almar, someone like that, that's not that caliber, if they got, beat in game one of the playoffs, they could jump back into the next, division down. And I think it would be really competitive and it'd still be fun. But anyway, I think people would probably be less, upset about it, because I think what's happening is people felt like the first round games were not competitive.
Right.
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree and disagree. There are also a lot of first round games that people felt like they could compete in. Like, I know Bishop Almont was a league champion from the Mission League, and it was a good game. Like, I think we beat them 24-7. It was a good game. It was competitive. Well, now if you take that away, and now game one, Mission or a Bishop Almont is playing on Mater Dei, well, now it's now game one of the playoffs isn't competitive. Mm-hmm. And I just think if you look at the playoffs, I mean, there wasn't a competitive game until Bosco played Mater Dei. I mean, you got to remember, Mater Dei was beating Corona Centennial 35-0 at halftime. Mater Dei was up on us 35-17. I mean, we only scored 17 points, 35-0 at halftime, and that was the semifinal. Mm-hmm. Bosco obliterated Oaks Christian on the other side of the bracket in the semifinal. So it's like, if you truly want to compete, then take Bosco Mater Dei, have them play each other in just one game, and then the winner goes to the state championship, and then put the rest of us in a playoff. That's really, if you're looking at it, it would be a 2-team playoff right now.
That's a little radical.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at the scores, that's what the scores say they do. I mean, there wasn't a game that was compared. If you look at those two teams, if you look at two teams that played in the CIF championship game, Bosco and Mater Dei, and you look at their road to the championship, it was running clocks all the way up until they got to the finals and played each other. Yep. And I remember that. I was the same way when I was at Bosco.
Exactly.
It was like, okay, well, I'll just wait till the finals. And that's really what's happened right now. And that's why, myself and Servite and Jay Sarah and a couple other schools are trying like heck to catch them and make it more competitive. So, they don't have running clocks all the way to the finals, I guess, and that's what we're trying to do. And it's a tall task, because they're really good coaches, run a really good program. They got really good players.
Yeah, you know it from the inside out. And that's why they're number 1 and 2 in our algorithm rankings. I mean, those are two fun programs. Well, Coach, continued success there. I know you had a great first year. I have no doubt that you're going to be able to climb that hill that you want to climb there. Appreciate your friendship, and good luck in 2019.
Appreciate you. Thanks for having me on.
Take care. Don't forget to keep up with all the scores from around the nation tonight. That's right. Each and every score is available to you on highschoolfootballamerica.com from our partners at ScoreStream. We have a top 100 scoreboard, and then we also have state-by-state scoreboards. Just go to Scores in our navigation tab, and you'll be up to date throughout the evening. That'll do it for today. I'm Jeff Fisher, and you've been listening to the High School Football America podcast.